Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight.
The Minutes administration's marijuana committee is set to begin their work soon.
Murders are down 36% compared to the same period last year. Find out what the public thinks. That story is coming up.
Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. I'm Kyle Joaquin, the attorney for Jean Charles, the man at the center of a legal battle with the government over his right to be in the Bahamas, is making an application for him to be granted Bahamian citizenship. But despite the matter now headed to the Privy Council, Jean Charles appeared in this morning's Tribune in a notice advertising his citizenship application.
His sisters have applied for citizenship. His sisters were granted citizenship. And so we are merely advertising his application.
Fred Smith QC, representing Jean Charles, says if his client's sisters, whom he says share the same parents and were born in the Bahamas like he reportedly was, were able to be granted Bahamian citizenship, then why can't he? There was a bit of uproar Thursday morning after a notice in the business section of the Tribune newspaper showed Jean Charles was applying to the Minister for Nationality and Citizenship for naturalization as a citizen of the Bahamas. Just last month, the Court of Appeal quashed a Supreme Court judge's controversial ruling that ordered immigration officials to grant residency to Jean Charles without first determining his identity. Acting Justice of Appeal Sir Michael Barnett said that Justice Gregory Hilton ought not to have considered an application for constitutional relief before determining whether Jean Charles and the Jean Charles deported by immigration officials in November 2017 was the same person. Hilton had determined that Jean Charles's constitutional rights were breached due to the absence of due process in his deportation after dismissing a habeas corpus application for authorities to justify his detention at the Carmichael Road Detention Center. Jean Charles's legal team has since taken it to the Privy Council. And now this, his application for citizenship.
We're going to make the application. And in accordance with the recent Privy Council decisions relating to immigration, the time within which immigration must consider applications, we're going to give them a reasonable amount of time to consider it and decide.
Okay.
But here's the point. Let's say that they don't give him citizenship.
Wow.
This is a man born in the Bahamas.
Smith said it upsets him to hear people raise so many questions around Jean Charles and his identity, but forget his documents were burned in a fire years ago as he reportedly sought to save 3 children. In the newspaper notice, anyone who knows why Jean Charles should not be granted citizenship should send a written and signed statement to the minister responsible within 28 days of October 30th. We also reached out to the immigration minister. Here's what he had to say.
People are horrified that he can sue the government and also apply for something from the government. That's our democratic system. He has that right. The matter is before the Court of Appeal, for the Privy Council. I'm not going to comment any further on the case.
Okay.
But he has I see in the newspaper he's starting the process of applying for citizenship. The government will look at his application as and when it is processed.
In other news, the Bahamas Insurance Association has finally revealed its position on the reworked version of national health insurance. In a position paper released on Wednesday evening, the BIA said the National Health Insurance Authority's timeline to roll out expanded NHI benefits is unrealistic and not feasible. That position paper came in response to the NHIA's policy paper on the way forward for NHI. The BIA said the NHIA's paper attempts to involve the private sector in a meaningful way, although there are a number of fundamental issues with the framework as proposed. The BIA paper said, "We believe that the challenges within the proposed framework are not insurmountable, and with collaboration with stakeholders, the overarching objectives of universal health care can be achieved." In its paper, the NHIA proposed a date between April and July 2019 for the launch of standard health benefits and expanded NHI coverage. But the BIA said it is our view that the proposed timeline is unrealistic and not feasible, bearing in mind that the 45-day consultation period ends on December 7, 2018 or December 26, 2018, if this is construed to be 45 working days. Once the consultation period ends, our understanding is that the feedback received from all stakeholders will be collected, reviewed, and requisite amendments made to the policy paper before it is presented to the government for approval. The BIA estimates that would leave NHI officials just 3 to 5 months for the design and rollout of standard healthcare benefits. While the BIA expressed doubt over the timeline, Health Minister Dr. Dwayne Sands says the NHIA is actively involved in the consultation process.
So the NHI authority is conducting a consultative process, and once they've gotten the views of the public, then we'll be able to make a determination how we're going to go.
The National Health Insurance Authority has proposed a 2% payroll tax to fund the universal health care scheme in the Bahamas, according to a policy paper released earlier this month. The overall cost of the scheme was absent from the document. However, Dr. Sands has said it is expected to cost $100 million per year. Co-chairs of the Minnis administration's Marijuana Committee met with officials from the Ministry of Health this morning to discuss their duties and the plan moving forward. Bahamas National Commission on Marijuana co-chair Bishop Simeon Hall says based on what came out of the meeting, it appears the committee can soon begin its work. Here's Jasmine Brown.
We're trying to get, we're on the taxiway right now, about to get airborne. We met very recently with the minister, and he has given us the parameters in which we are to work. And I think it's going to be an interesting discussion.
According to Hall, the committee will first approach members of the clergy to gauge their views as a part of its national overview on the issue of marijuana. 25 individuals, including Hall, were appointed to the commission earlier this month, though it remains to be seen how many have accepted the appointments. Former Deputy Commissioner of Police Quinn McCartney is also co-chairing the commission. According to Hall, the commission will seek the input of a cross-section of society.
As a commissioner, my personal thing is to look at it, see what kind of benefits we could get from it. There are those who are looking at the medicinal, the financial, but I am also looking at the social justice involved in this thing.
Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis announced just over 2 months ago that Cabinet had approved the makeup of a committee that will examine the issue of marijuana in the Bahamas and make recommendations to the government. The commission is expected to take approximately 3 to 4 months to travel and get a national consensus. Hall could not commit to the exact time frame for the commission to complete its report, as he said specifics would be released during a press conference that will be held soon.
I don't want to preempt them, but the major thing is to hear the Bahamian people, ascertain certain positions, and then make recommendations. That's what we will set out to do.
The issue of whether marijuana ought to be decriminalized in the region was on CARICOM's agenda. The Regional Commission on Marijuana, which presented its report to CARICOM on the social, economic, health, and legal issues surrounding marijuana in the region, put forward the view that in a regulated framework, marijuana should be treated similarly to tobacco and alcohol. According to the Regional Commission report, the Bahamas could see a financial benefit of around $5 million from the legalization of the substance and regularization of its sale, though Hall and others have opined the financial benefit to the nation with regards to medical use could be far greater. Hall was also a member of the Regional Commission. Now, Hall says he does plan on meeting with his co-chair soon to map out the way forward for the Marijuana Committee. Reporting for our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
All right, thanks, Jasmine. Well, murders are down 36% compared to the same period during 2017, according to the Nassau Guardian. Jared Higgs breaks it all down and gets reaction from the public.
There were 116 murders during the first 10 months of 2017 and 74 during the same period this year. That represents a 36% decrease and puts the country on pace to record 89 murders this year. If that number holds, this would be the first year since 2010 that the country recorded less than 100 murders. In that year, there were 94. Some members of the public offered a positive reaction to the news.
That's great news. I mean, at least we know that the police department is being quite effective in trying to curb some of the crime situation we have in this country. That's the best news we've heard probably for the year.
That's a very good sign, but beyond that, we have to find a solution to keep it lower than that. So that means we got to find out, even if low this time, find a resource to keep it that low. So to me, that's a good sign.
It should be something to feel good about, but to be honest with you, right, every month you look around, they say it's down 36%, and then the next month it's right back up again, But, it should be something to feel good. 36% is a lot, but one word is still too much.
Last month, there were 5 murders recorded, down 50% from the 10 recorded in October 2017 and 58% from the 12 in October 2016. 2015's murder total of 146 is the current record. 2017's total of 122 was up from 2016's 111 murders. Here's how members of the public responded when asked if they feel safe considering the reduction in killings so far this year.
Now, in our days, the police are, I think they hard at their job. So I think, I feel a little safe now.
I have no shotgun. I have the alarm system, burglar bars, but, you know.
Would you feel as safe without those things?
Not really, because, I mean, there's a possibility, evil will always be out there, and so there are persons who will always try to take what you have, what they didn't earn.
No. Even though it's down, it ain't a murder someone like myself concerned about it. It's robberies and people being attacked and abused and battery and that type of thing.
Now, while the recurring theme was that the reduction in the murder rate is positive, many people we spoke with says the country still needs to set loftier goals.
So you're saying that the murder rate is down, but I mean, where exactly is the conversation going? Is it like just to say, okay, well, it's down a little bit from last year, which means maybe we don't have enough, maybe we don't have as much retaliation killings and stuff like that, but what's the plan for crime? Like, is there a plan that's working?
Is it something that we should celebrate? It's still murders still happening, and should we celebrate the fact that, our murder rate is down? There shouldn't be no murders in the first place.
The difference in opinion regarding how to eradicate the problem was stark.
It starts from the little kids. You have to change their mindsets. You have to start from the school kids and give them better foundation, a better responsibility. They seem to be the kids growing up themselves.
They need to broke all their necks, start playing, come and playing with them. Sit them, let them get fat for people food. Doesn't need to hang all of them. Stop playing, but don't try them. You kill that person, kill you too.
There have been 1,185 murders in the country since the beginning of 2008. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Hayes.
All right, thanks, Jared. Well, as the Bahamas pushes ahead with its plan to accede to the World Trade Organization, many are still not clear on how that move will affect the Bahamas. And now the Bahamas' chief negotiator is seeking to offer a bit of clarification. Jillian Gray reports.
The Bahamas' chief negotiator for WTO, Shavargo Lang, is debunking myths and laying to rest fears about the Bahamas' ascension. At the Rotary Club of West Nassau's weekly meeting, Lang was grilled by Rotarians wanting to know the truth about how the Bahamas will change after WTO ascension. One Rotarian asked if the Bahamas would be pressured to make policy changes such as legalizing same-sex marriage. Lang quickly rebutted that statement and encouraged Bahamians to read the requirements for WTO ascension for themselves.
Anytime you want to sour this community and Caribbean communities on something, you raise the sexual preference card. That's been a tendency of ours to do it. It's good political fodder. But the WTO has no bearing on issues related to your social norms, etc. There's none whatsoever.
Last year, the Minnis administration began an aggressive campaign to accede to the WTO. The Bahamas is the only nation in the Western Hemisphere that is not a full member of the multilateral institution which oversees and enforces global trade rules. When the announcement was made that the Bahamas was seeking to accede to the WTO, many had questions about what exactly that would entail. Lang admitted that one part of the policy changes that may scare Bahamians is the part that deals with the presence of natural persons. He says, while some may see it as a policy for the free movement of persons, it is not. He then drew on the U.S., who is a member of the WTO, as an example.
I want you to imagine the Senegalese, the Nigerians, the Jamaicans walking up to the American border and saying, listen, you're in the WTO and we're in the WTO, we come to work. It doesn't happen, it cannot happen, because the rules of the WTO have nothing to do with free movement of labor.
Lang added that the policy allows for a person to come into the country for 90 days for a business transaction and is only a slight deviation from what is already allowed under Bahamian law. When it comes to lower duty rates, Lang said it is presumed that savings will be passed on to customers and added that suggestions have already been made on how to enforce that policy.
When the government reduces duties on an item, it can engage the Government and Public Policy Institute to track the prices on those items for a year, 2 years, however long they want it. We can report to them every single time. You cut the duty, but this has been what the price has been. And from our own research, we can't justify why the price adjustment hasn't been made, because that then could help with the monitoring. And you don't do that quietly, you announce it.
Lang added that consultation with the business community is already underway and assured that the business community's interests will be represented in the accession discussions. Once accepted, Lang said policy adjustments could take up to 10 years. Reporting for RN News, I'm Jillian Gray.
All right, thanks, Jillian. Still to come, the nurses have until tomorrow to express concerns to the PHA. Plus, a revised breadbasket items list is on the way. Stay tuned.